everyone, welcome back to Rolling Solo. My name is Adam Smith, and we are heading back into the playthrough for Solomon Kane from Mythic Games. We are playing Rattle of Bones, the storybook, and we're in part number 4, where we left it off in the last video. And if you haven't checked those out, I'll put a link to those in the top right-hand corner to the full showcase. You can catch up to where we currently are right now. We were moving into the Landlord's Tale in Chapter 7a, which is a scene. I've already gone ahead and set this scene up, so let's find out more about the narrative around Chapter 7. Kane rises, hands held out before him in surrender, and lets the landlord babble his insane tale while he searches for an opening. Why should I spare any man who lifted a hand to my aid when I lie on the vile dungeons of Karlsruhe, and for a deed never proven? Kane made no answer. This man was not the first he had seen whose brain had shattered amid the horrors of the terrible continental prisons. But I escaped, the scream rose triumphantly, and here I make war on all men. What was that? Did Kane see a flash of fear in those hideous eyes? Something happened to my brain then. I became as a wolf, a brother to these of the Black Forest to which I fled when I escaped. They have feasted, my brothers, on all who lay in my tavern, all except this one who now clashes his bones, this magician from Russia, lest he come stalking back through the black shadows when night is over the world and slay me, for who may slay the dead? Taking a look at the keywords and stats, we have Solomon Kane with the keyword prisoner. We're familiar with this, so Solomon Kane cannot move at this point in time. He has the ability to be talked to. The tavern keeper is also here with the keywords villain, so anything involving that tavern keeper and any kind of checks, we'll be looking at the middle number on the event card. And then we've got seeker as a keyword tied to Solomon Kane, so we're familiar with the seeker keyword in the other scenes. The seeker was going after explore tokens. This time the seeker keyword is focused on Solomon Kane, and again this is specific to the tavern keeper. And then the gloater keyword here with a 4 beside as a base value, and again the tavern keeper can be talked to with the following discovery cards to reveal based on the success levels of the test. The objective here is to keep the tavern keeper talking, and there may be more objectives that'll come from the discovery cards in a moment here. We also have the outcome here focused on purity points. If we happen to get 2, we'll go to 8A. If we get anything other than 2, we go to 8C. Next, we need 6 darkness cards, which I've got put together, and we're going to go and look at discovery card 222 and 228. 222 states, Voice of Reason. Kane inquires about the secret room to keep the landlord talking. The skeleton in yon's secret chamber, how come it be there? It's an ongoing effect. It states for each determination used to activate a talk test, virtues gain a +1 modifier to the test. And then for each faith used to activate a talk test, virtues gain a -1 modifier to the test. Keep him talking. The manic sidles around Kane, keeping the Englishman always covered, his weapon menacing him as he goes for the secret door with his free hand. This is an ongoing effect by the gear symbol. It states when 7 or more progress tokens have been placed onto this card, reveal D229, and this remains in play along with the one we just previously read. So now knowing our objective, let's go ahead, roll our dice, and see if we can try to keep this tavern keeper talking. So let's do just that. We're going to roll these dice, see what we get. I'm going to go ahead and choose to re-roll this one. I'm kind of hoping to get one of these 2 icons that I can use to do another talk test later on, because remember, if we happen to use a faith when doing a talk test based on the discovery card over here, we're going to get a -1 modifier that I don't want to have. So yep, that did not work out, but it's going to be a pain, and we'll just slot it into the reserve. So with the talk test, as we know, we're checking out compassion, and thanks to me bumping this up previously, we have a +1 modifier to use. Next, we check to see if any shadows are in Solomon Kane's surroundings, and there are none, so no negative modifiers, and we gain 3 from Prudence, which is awesome. And we also don't gain anything in terms of using determination die when doing a talk test, because I didn't actually use any. The one that's actually on the board that's for Prudence that requires a bravery and a fear will never be able to get that particular determination boost, but I do have a card in my virtue hand that could eventually come back around, and if you remember, it was a talk 4 card, and that one I believe does have determination on it, so it would get an additional +1 modifier in that case. I'm hoping that comes around sooner rather than later. Tallying up what I already have, 3 from Providence, 1 from the Compassion modifier, we're at 4. We're pulling an event card, and the far right number for the hero Solomon Kane is a 4. So that is going to be an 8. And just so you guys understand in terms of the check, up to 4 would have got me a D223, 5 to 6 would have got me D224, and 7 plus is D233. So we actually got the best possible outcome thanks to Providence being ready for this. The card states, counting his blessings. Solomon counts his blessing as he succeeds in keeping the irate tavern keeper talking as the bone rattling coming from the dark room intensifies. This is an instant effect. We're placing 2 progress on D228. We're going to move Solomon Kane 1, and we get to place our very first blessing. Now, just based on the current layout right now, I have no problem being in the same spot as the Tavern Keeper, because if I move 1 into his space, he's coming towards me anyway with his Seeker keyword. He wants to be right next to me, so I'm just going to move into his space. The other benefit I get from that is staying as far away from the shadows and more so in the middle, close to Providence, where Providence can hopefully interact or bump into one of the shadows, causing a shockwave to wipe them both out. So if I can keep things tight there, then if the shadows kind of close in on us, we can use Providence to save Solomon Kane. Now, this is the first time that I've ever gotten a blessing in the game. I've set myself up with a card in my hand at times to be able to get a blessing. It just never panned out until now. It's great because now I can go over what this means for us. First off, that tower of tokens are the blessings on the opposite side. Once you reveal a blessing, it'll tell you what effect you get, and you're going to store it once you get it on your cloud, just like you would the cubes for mercy or luck. And you can see we still have a luck cube to use, and I'm waiting for that perfect moment to do it. But what are blessings? Well, blessings are intended to be very powerful and can be used anytime during the game, even during other players' turns. But again, when playing solo, there's no worries around that. When in doubt, you allow the blessing to be played. Blessings are not removed from the cloud at the end of the chapter, so they'll stick around just like those cubes will. Revealing the top tile from the blessing deck, I got one that says +1 strength, +1 clarity, or +1 compassion. At this point, the only one that would actually give me a boost in modification is if I put it for clarity. It would get me from a +1 to a +2, but because I don't need clarity just yet, I'm going to hold off on it because maybe I need it in another category later on. And you can do that. It can sit there between chapters, so I won't use it right now. And as you already saw, I was able to place 2 progress tokens on Keep 'em Talking. I'm trying to get 7 or more. So let's clean up for the end of Providence's turn. Do I want to discard this card? No, I'm okay with it staying here. Being able to mess with the danger deck and take one away and get a light, it's always a good thing to have there. This is empty. I'm going to fill this now with something from my hand. I'm going to use Guile. This is going to allow me to get a fight for, or more importantly right now, 2 more luck cubes potentially. That could be a nice plus. And then we're going to draw a card back up into our hand, and the card that got off the top of the deck is Dignity. So at this point, Seeker is going to trigger for the Tavern Keeper, but he's already as close to Solomon Kane as he can possibly be, so he has no movement going on there. But now his Gloater, or his talking action, is going to occur, and he starts at a base value of 4. He gets no benefit for any shadows around Solomon Kane currently. He is considered a villain, so we look at the middle number. We're going to add a 4 to a 4. That's a really high result. And taking a look at Solomon Kane, oh good, he just missed the highest tier. So it's up to a 6 is D225, a 7 to 8, which he just landed in, is D226. I'll be pulling that. A 9 plus is D227. It states, suspicions of a madman. You were in that secret room, you and this dead fool. Did he talk to you? He asks while he kicks Solomon brutally to the side. Place 1 progress on D228. We're going to lose a strength off of our track. That's no good. Then we can move Solomon Kane 1, and then it says move all shadows 1 to threaten. Gone ahead and knocked my strength down by 1. It went from a 7 down to a 6. I lost my +1 boost there. There's also a progress token added to D228. We have 3 of them now, not 7 like we need in order to resolve this particular card and move to D229, which we're trying to do. Right now, I get to move Solomon Kane. I'm probably going to move him into Providence's space, and then the shadows are going to close in. Yes, this is a little bit intense. It seems like time is against us, and obviously it's going to get a lot harder once those shadows get within Solomon Kane's surroundings. And now we move to the Darkness card, and we take a look for the near. No one is near to Solomon Kane right now in terms of the far. What does it state? We have no sentries, no scouts. We have a shadow. It says the closest shadow moves 1 to threaten. So this shadow here is 1, 2, 3 away. This one's 1, 2, 3. So we get a choice of which one we want to move. The shadows are on the move again, and as of right now, we would spawn one at X if we were not at our shadow threshold, which we are of 2, so nothing to spawn right now. And X, just so you're aware, is actually way up here in the top right-hand corner. We have Z down here and Y over here. Let's move into our next turn and see how we do with Providence and the dice roll, at least the initial one anyway. Wow, that's a lot of determination and some bravery. I certainly got way more determination than I need, so I'm just going to go ahead and roll this and we'll see what we get. Hopefully something different. Come on. Determination. It rolled off camera. So not too much changing there. So what I'm going to probably have to do, even though I don't want to do it, is I'm going to go ahead and end up using my wild here in order to pull off another talk action. So I'm trying to talk my way through this because I want to keep him talking. And as you'll notice, this is a really good example of where a keyword for prisoner is on Solomon Kane, saying that I can't move him at all, but other game effects through the resolving of discovery cards are allowing me to move Solomon Kane. And of course, I have to choose his placement strategically as these shadows are messing with me, and the conversation continues with the tavern keeper. So this is what I have right now. I have all of these over here, which means I could use these 3 potentially over here on Providence and move Providence. That might be an option. After looking at the game board, I'm not sure this is the right moment to move Providence. There's only one spot that I could put her that could be interesting. I could place her over here, and this would give her the ability to be very close to moving into spaces like this one, or this one, or this one to protect Solomon Kane, or basically trigger a shockwave. But really just leaving her where she is right now, being that the shadows are exactly equal distance on both sides, I think it's better not to move her and keep the dice for a situation where I want to move Providence to trigger a shockwave. And maybe those shadows will be closer so they both can be taken out at that same time. So for now, I'm going to put the extra dice I have in the reserve, and I'll end up losing a die while I do that. So this is the end result. This die is going to be lost. The rest are in the reserve, and we're going to be doing a talk, but I used a faith icon, so it's going to be a -1 modification there. So really, because we're using compassion when we talk and I get a +1, those two cancel themselves out. We're starting at a 0. Then looking at the board, no shadows are within Solomon Kane's surroundings, although one is getting extremely close, but not there yet. But thankfully, the Virtue Province is there, so I get a bonus of 3. So I do have 3 going into this event check. Let's see how it pans out with the right-hand number. It is a 4 this time. We're doing really well with the talking right now. Counting his blessings triggers again. I get to place 2 more progress on D228. That'll get us up to 5 total. We need to get to 7 or more. I can move Solomon Kane, and we get another blessing. I'm going to choose to have Solomon Kane back in the corner. This doesn't really change too much right now because the distance of the shadows to me still remains the same. Not so much for this one. Actually, I guess in a way it buys me more time because as you can see now the distance between the shadows and Solomon Kane is on this one it's 1, 2, 3, and on this one it's 1, 2, 3. So it's actually putting them more even relative to Solomon Kane's position. So that's actually pretty good. The downside is if I was here versus here, this shadow still is the exact same distance to me. The other thing to keep in mind too is that we're trying to keep the conversation going with the tavern keeper. I don't want to get disconnected so far away from him we don't do any more talking. But remember, talking is an action that can occur in the same space or in the surrounding area of the character. And I know for a fact when I'm done my turn here in a few seconds that this individual is going to move 1 as it's seeking me out. He'll move into this space to continue the conversation. Another blessing in the cloud. This one states discard 1 revealed event card before it is resolved. That's really good. So if one of these shadows happen to go into Solomon Kane's space as an example of one way that an event card could be pulled and we'd have to walk through it, I could just simply use this particular blessing to discard it. This time around, I'm choosing not to discard anything from my hand or cycle any cards or draw anything up as I don't need to. I'm pretty happy with how things are going so far and want to see what's going to happen once we trigger this next card D229 once I get enough progress tokens, and we are very, very close now. So with the Virtue turn done, we now know what the Tavern Keeper is going to do next: move and engage in conversation. The The Tavern Keeper has a 4 as a base, and the shadows are far enough at bay to not add anything into that. The middle number right now for him is a 3, so that's going to bring him up to a total of 7. That is going to have him pull D226. That's another progress token on D228, another minus strength, so my strength is waning, and then I'm going to be able to move Solomon Kane 1, and then all shadows are going to close in 1 more. My strength has been knocked down from 6 to 5. Progress tokens are currently at 6, so getting very, very close to this one resolving, but we have to move Solomon Kane at this point, and those shadows are closing in. And this is definitely coming right down to the wire here. Let's see what the darkness card adds to this equation here in the near space. Now that we actually do have a shadow in the near space, it's going to move into engage. So this is when I'm going to play that blessing I just got to discard the event card that would have actually hurt Solomon Kane. So what's really cool about this blessing is I get the choice after the event has been revealed as to whether or not I want to go ahead and discard it. So I don't even have to use this blessing until I'm sure I want to use it. I could read this event card and go, that's not too bad, and take the effects and keep the blessing, or I could literally say, that looks really nasty, toss the token, and I'm safe. So let's find out what Wave of Despair is all about. The event card is called Wave of Despair, so let's see if this is as bad as it seems, or maybe it's not so bad, and we'll decide if we want to use this blessing. One virtue discards their left-hand action card, so that would be my courtesy card, and I might have described this earlier wrong. I know what it's for, but I think I accidentally said it was for -1 darkness card. That's a different card that I have. This one's still a handy one, though. It lets me reduce the danger level, which mine is quite low right now, or place light. So this would actually be kind of a con, but again, it always comes back around eventually. The next one here says +1 to danger, unless the Prudence miniature is on the board. So in this particular case, that would be a kick in the pants. Virtues remove 1 dice from their reserve, so I have 3 in the reserve, so I lose a die there, and then I get to place a luck die. So that's actually not that bad. Now, adding the extra danger isn't the greatest. It puts me right up at the threshold, but I just don't know. I might actually keep this blessing for another time. I really hope I don't regret this, but I'm definitely going to discard this courtesy card from my left hand for Providence, and the danger level has gone up from 3 to 4. I'm also removing a die, and I'm choosing to remove a determination. The only positive from this is I get to place a luck cube. We're not out of the woods yet. We have this section, the far section, to deal with as well. For the next time a shadow is mentioned, it says the closest shadow moves 2 to threaten. This one hasn't been activated yet. It would move 2 to threaten. You can see it can only go through the door, which means it has to go in the space where Providence is. I don't get a choice. The only choice I get right now is whether I want to hold my ground and push this shadow back 1 and increase my danger level, which would push me up to the next threshold level, which does not sound like a smart idea, or I could just have Providence take this shadow out. The downside of that is I will no longer be able to take advantage of that +3 for talk test when I'm so close to the end of this. But I think it's the right call. So the shockwave occurs as the shadow moves into Providence's space. They're both removed off the board, but guess what? One shadow's coming back in Spawn X, and that's right next to Solomon Kane. So that was certainly a little bit unexpected and unfortunate. So now is a great time to talk about a miss that I made all the way through the playthrough up until now. I confirmed with Mythic Games that this is the correct way to play, and even during their playthrough, they messed this up as well. So it just goes to show that interpretation of a rule sometimes can take you off on a tangent. The good news is, in terms of scenes, this really didn't have any impact because I was playing it correctly in that case, because when Providence is on the board, you get everything that's in the socket areas that you have light in as a bonus. So the extra 4 dice, or I should say the extra die that makes it a total of 4 dice, was totally correct to have. Where I went wrong was where there was story chapters and Providence was actually sitting on this board like Providence is sitting on this board right now. I can't take advantage of any of these. Not a single one, which means going into this next turn for Solomon Kane, I'm just rolling 3 dice. That's it. So really, during my playthrough to this point, every time I went into a story, I tried to make sure this +1 die was in here so I'd have 4 dice. Those stories would have been much tougher with only 3 going through them. Now, at the end of the day, this whole playthrough is to help you get moving quicker. So what I've done is gone back through the previous parts and put a pinned comment in part 1, 2, and 3 to ensure that everybody knows that I did make that mistake, so that at least if you're watching, you understand I had a little bit of a leg up with that extra die in situations sometimes when I shouldn't have had it. So I'm going to play this going forward the correct way, which is right now Providence has been shockwaved off the board, which means Solomon Kane doesn't get to take advantage of the +1 die, which means I'm starting my turn rolling 3 dice. So we're going to go ahead and roll those dice and see how we do. One of them ended up rolling off screen, but we got a bravery. So this is actually pretty good because I do have my talk. Now, I am still considered adjacent to the individual I want to talk to, which is perfect. The downside is the shadows beside me too, so that's going to affect things. But this is good because I don't need to use a faith in order to pull this off. So I can go like this, for instance. Now I can take a look around to see if there's anything else I want to do. Maybe... Well, no, there really isn't. Really isn't anything else I want to do at this point. I guess I could put Providence back on the board. That'd be kind of a good idea, right? So let's go ahead and do that. Let's bring Providence back. Let's go 3 dice right here. We'll activate that one first, get Providence on the board to take advantage of the 3 successes we would get from her. So Providence is going to show up in the same space as Solomon Kane. Solomon Kane is a mortal, so an immortal is allowed to be and spawn inside the same space as a mortal, but I couldn't have had Providence spawn inside of an area where an immortal already exists, for instance, like a shadow. Now let's go ahead and trigger the talk action. I get a +1 for compassion. I get 3 from Providence. We're going to grab an event card here and hope for a high number again. That would be fantastic. And then the hero number on the far right, this is the average number that comes up in this far right. It's a 4, which is great. That's going to give us a total of 8. So we did very, very well here. Count his blessing showed up for us 3 times. This will put another 2 progress tokens on this thing. That is 7 and above. So we'll be able to resolve this card next. We can move Solomon Kane and we get to gain a blessing. So I'm just going to go ahead and have Solomon Kane shuffle over to here because I do not want him anywhere near that shadow. And now we'll grab a new blessing. This is actually really cool because I had never gotten a blessing at this point, and in this particular chapter or scene, I literally got all kinds of them. This one states, at the start of a virtue turn, roll 3 extra dice. That is awesome. I'm going to go ahead right now and just finish up my virtue turn before we clear up the discovery cards. I'm going to go ahead and probably choose to place... This is a tough one, actually. I might go ahead and choose to place Resolve. This is a really good one because it allows me to move to or move light from socket, so that could be really handy. And at this point, I'm happy with what I have. I'll grab the last virtue card to replenish my hand. So Interrogation is the one I get. This is actually the one I wanted the entire time through this particular scene, but never found it. The other one, just so you guys are aware, that's in my hand is this one right here, Dignity. So it states here, as an ongoing effect, when 7 or more progress have been placed, reveal D229. Let's do it. The darkness within. All is darkness within the secret room, so that Kane cannot even see the glimmer of the bones on the floor. Place 2 purity points, and that is going to signal the end of the chapter. Pretty happy with that result, so 2 purity points going on this chapter. And that was all we need in order to proceed to 8A, which we're going to do right now. Mine host vanishes. Chapter 8A story. Kane tenses, knowing his only hope now is to spring at the host, though a forlorn one it seems, with a hanger trained on him. Move not, Englishman, your bones I shall leave in this secret room beside this one too. The maniac stands partly in the doorway of the secret room, his weapon menacing Kane. Suddenly he topples backward and vanishes in the darkness, and at the same instant a vagrant gust of wind sweeps down the outer corridor and slams the door behind him. The candle on the wall flickers and dies. Kane's groping hands sweep over the floor, find a pistol, and he straightens, facing the door where the maniac vanished. He stands in utter darkness, his blood freezing, while a hideous muffled screaming emanates from the secret room, intermingling with the dry, grisly rattle of fleshless bones. Dare the Puritan intervene, or should he leave the maddened wretch to what is undoubtedly a just fate? So this chapter is one of the easiest story ones we've run into so far in this storybook, and this one allows us a choice. This one states Solomon Kane lets the sorcerer skeleton enact his vengeance on the madman. Very tempting indeed, and can only be chosen if clarity is at 4+, and our clarity is currently at 8, so we definitely could choose that. The other one is Kane decides to destroy that monstrosity. No matter the deed, the dead shall stay dead. Ooh, that's also really tempting too. Now, it doesn't have that, if your clarity was not at 4 or higher, you wouldn't even have the top option. So you'd be going to the bottom one. So I am very tempted to see what would happen if we have to take out those bones. So I think I'm going to go ahead, maybe something that I'll regret later. I'm going to go ahead with 9A. Chapter 9A is considered a scene. It is called Vengeance Interrupted, and as you can see right now, we are definitely going into our very first fight actions. As you can see, just quickly in the keywords and stats section here, Solomon Kane has fight, Animated Skeleton has fight. This is going to be really interesting because we haven't seen that action take place till now, so we can finally make use of that wonderful strength modifier that has been taking a beating and is currently sitting in the middle right now. So I'll be talking about how that all works going into the next episode. And that next episode will likely be us moving into the finale, as this entire storybook has a total of, I believe, 10 to 11 chapters. So we are near the very end, and I believe we'll be able to wrap it up in that final video. So thank you guys so much for watching to this point. Let me know in the comments below if you're enjoying the playthrough and this helped to get you and your game to the table that much quicker. Thank you guys for watching. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, definitely join us and we'll discover solo games together. And as always, keep on rolling solo.